welcome back to another edition of 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Michael Montero and Doug Fischer. Back to talk boxing once again. And gentlemen, we're all there March 18th at the famed Madison Square Garden in New York, and the middleweight title was on the line. And undefeated, he remains, Gennady Golovkin, with a tough 12-round decision over the game, Danny Jacobs. The HBO rebroadcast was this past weekend. Michael, in reviewing the fight again, anything new come to mind from when you were there inside the venue?
Yeah, I think that, there live that night, I sat about a mile up from the ring. You guys were among the few who were actually ringside. The press situation there was a little wonky. Hopefully they get that right next time. Yeah. But being that far from the ring, there was a lot of close combinations from both guys, exchanges. It was hard to see who was landing the shots, right? And Jacobs was slipping a lot of Gennady's offense, but Gennady was blocking a lot of Jacobs' offense. And that's hard to see sometimes from that far away. Yeah. Seeing it 3, 4, 5 times on different platforms now, you can see that Gennady's defense, which I think is underrated, we'd all agree, he was blocking a lot of those combinations from Jacobs. And Jacobs would move a lot. And during that time when he was moving with those offensive lulls, Gennady worked consistently with the jab. And I thought that Jacobs let himself be outworked in the majority of those rounds in between those offensive bursts. He did succeed in making Gennady have to reset when he would tee off. Even though those shots were blocked, they would stop Gennady in his tracks. But one thing that I do think stands out here, Gennady historically throws 70 punches around, according to CompuBox. Against Jacobs, he only threw 50. So Jacobs did neutralize Gennady's offense, but there wasn't enough of his own offense to clearly win the fight.
Yeah, watching the fight live from press row, I was on the floor, sort of to the side, the ring wasn't right in front of me. It was kind of almost. Yeah,
you guys were pushed over.
Yeah, so that does skew your perspective a little bit. I thought Gennady Golovkin clearly won a competitive fight. I thought he was in control for the majority of rounds. However, I thought he may have allowed for Jacobs to steal enough rounds to actually steal the fight. Like after 12 rounds, in my mind, I thought Golovkin won 7 clear rounds. But I was saying to myself, that's close enough for the fight to be stolen from him. It didn't happen, and I'm glad because I believe the right man won the fight. But being there in Madison Square Garden live and in the moment, I had it 7 rounds to 5, and I wasn't mad at Max DeLuca's 114-113 card, which is 6 rounds apiece, and the 4th round knockdown being the difference, which gave the fight to Golovkin. Watching it on HBO just this past Saturday, I scored 8 rounds for Golovkin. Yeah. I thought he was the ring general. I thought he out-jabbed Daniel Jacobs. I thought he landed the clean shots. I thought Jacobs reacted to every clean shot that Golovkin landed. And when I say reacted, I don't mean he was hurt and stunned in every round. I'm saying when he got hit, you noticed it. He took a jump back, and it took him a while to get his offense going. I thought he fought a brilliant fight. I thought he fought...
the fight of his life, right?
Yes, he did. He fought the fight of his life. He didn't languish on the ropes. He didn't make too many mistakes. He let his hands go at the right time, and he got respect from Golovkin. And down the stretch, there were some rounds where I thought he got to Golovkin's body, and Golovkin may have felt it. Golovkin reacted a little bit. My takeaway from the fight was that we had the consensus #1 middleweight against the consensus #2 middleweight, and the biggest, most talented fighter in the 160-pound division next to Golovkin, which is Jacobs. And they both gave each other due respect. They both did not fight their usual aggressive fights where they come in and they blast the opposition. They had to respect each other. Both guys would take a half step forward and they'd take a half step back when the other guy let his hands go. So it was kind of a tit-for-tat battle, but there was no doubt in my mind after 12 rounds that Golovkin was a superior fighter and a superior boxer.
Yeah, watching it right next to you, then watching it couchside at my buddy's house on HBO, I thought it was clear. You could make an argument that Golovkin won 7 to 8 rounds, but you couldn't make an argument on the same for Danny Jacobs. I thought he clearly won maybe 4 or 5 rounds, but you're right, Doug. The main tenet of boxing, and I hear the term all the time, outboxing. if you can't establish the jab better than your opponent and you get hit with so many jabs, that's not outboxing.
Yeah, if you're out-jabbed, you're being outboxed.
Yeah.
If you can't defend against boxing's most basic punch, what does that say about your boxing ability?
Right.
And what does that say about the guy that you're supposedly boxing? Supposedly, people, and I'll say this about Sergey Kovalev as well. Going into his fight with Andre Ward and Golovkin coming into this fight with Daniel Jacobs, there were people out there saying that he was basic and that he was overrated.
One-dimensional.
And one-dimensional. Now, if you're in the ring with a guy who's one-dimensional, basic, and overrated, overhyped, you should be able to defend against his jab.
Particularly as the rounds go, you're supposed to be able to time him and see it coming. What I found interesting is Gennady got more accurate as the rounds progressed. Because early on, Jacobs was making a miss up top, especially with the right hand. But down the stretch, Gennady landed the jab almost at 100% accuracy, it seemed. When
and it's
he
a hard
needed to.
jab.
And he wasn't just coming over the top. He was coming underneath with it, underneath Jacobs' guard. He was landing it from different angles. I thought that Gennady got better as the rounds went on, not necessarily so with Jacobs. He got more confident that he could take Golovkin's
Let me say,
power.
I'm not saying that Jacobs is not a good boxer.
Oh, he's good.
I think he's
Very
a
good.
sensational boxer. I think he's also, when he wants to be, he can be a sensational fighter. I think he needed more of the fighter against Golovkin. I think he was thinking a little bit too much, and I think when he let his hands go, I don't think he was really committing to his offense. I think he was happy just to let the hands go. He wasn't turning them over, and I think he was fine to land on Gennady's gloves and forearms and elbows as long as Gennady gave him that respect, took a step back. He wasn't trying to score and hurt Gennady.
In the rematch, I think Jacobs will have to find a way to fight off the front foot 10 to 20% more and be more forceful downhill and actually try to really punch with authority, not just throw a lot of flashy combinations. I think one of the keys to beating Golovkin, everyone says you have to outbox him. I disagree. I think you have to back him up.
Yeah,
I think
you got to hurt him.
Absolutely have to back him up and draw the line in the sand where the guy says, wait a minute, I'm not just going to come in unfettered. With that said, Gennady Golovkin, April 8th will be birthday number 35. Do you think he showed his age at all? That was a concern of mine coming in.
He looked fresh.
Yeah.
I just think he fought a measured fight. I think he gave Jacobs respect. I think if somebody gets in there with Golovkin and tries to outfight him, you're going to see the Golovkin from last year, the year before, or 2014. I really believe that. Having said that, Father Time eventually catches up with everybody. And there is the wear and tear from a near 7-year title run. You know, how many title defenses has he been in? It's up to debate, really, depending on which version of the WBA belt that you recognize or whatever. But he's got like 15, 16, 17 title defenses.
In an amateur career.
Yeah, amateur career. I mean, he turned pro at age 25 after 350 amateur bouts and those a lot of high level bouts. But the training camps, back to back to back, does begin to take a toll. And with each fight, he becomes bigger. He becomes more of a global brand, which means you have more sponsors, which means you have more fans, you have more hangers-on, you have more people pulling him in different directions during the camp and definitely during fight week and all that. And that takes a mental toll on a fighter.
I have a question. There's a lot of talk that he might fight June 10th in Kazakhstan, which is a very special event given the World Expo 2017. We hear it all the time from other coaches and other players. We take it one game at a time when there's an event ahead. I just wonder, Danny Jacobs put up a very valiant effort, big, physical, strong guy. They kind of gamed the system with the IBF weighing that they did not participate in. But I wonder with Golovkin, if he wasn't as reckless or the kamikaze that we're used to, do you think he said to himself, let's just get through March 18th so I'm okay for June 10th?
Yeah, and I think just to back up on what you were saying, Doug, it's all part of that. He gets bigger each time, and now he's thinking down the road. It's not just Saunders, it's Canelo, and it's the eventual move to 168 pounds. There's potentially not just 7 figures on the line, but 8 figures. That fight in Kazakhstan, that's probably an 8-figure payday, right? Because the government's putting up money. So all things considered, you're going to think about that in the back of your mind, and you're going to be more cautious.
Yeah, and by the way, me and Doug, I think we're in agreement. We don't know what's going to happen May 6th, okay? That's a hard physical fight. If Chavez is actually able to make weight, puts Canelo through a very physical, grinding fight, maybe it's good enough to have a rematch. I'm telling you right now, I think Tom Loeffler and Gennady got caught on their heels last year, and they lost at least one, if not two fights. Doug, if I'm Gennady Golovkin in K2, I'm USC. I fight on. I'm going June 10th. I don't care what Golden Boy thinks.
Well, Golovkin is an international brand, and he is a franchise. He sells out major venues. When you have a fighter like that, why are you basing your schedule on other fighters' schedules?
Run a business.
He's a star.
Run your business.
You know,
and that's a cheap fight for HBO.
He's second banana to Canelo, but that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a B-side against Canelo, but that's the one guy in the middleweight division who can say he's a bigger star, a bigger attraction than Golovkin. And yeah, they're talking about fighting later this year. September is that golden date, but they shouldn't sit out this summer in hopes of getting Canelo in September, because as you say, Steve, anything could happen on May 6th. It could be a cut. Canelo could break his right hand on that big melon of Chavez Jr. Jr. could make weight and be healthy and then put on 20 pounds, and it could be a physical battle of attrition. And Canelo may not be win or lose or draw. He may not be physically able to return in September. So it would be foolish of Tom Loeffler and K2 Promotions and Team Triple G to sit out the summer when they had this opportunity to unify all the major sanctioning organization 160-pound titles, which is his goal, was part of his dream. It's history and it's legacy. And it's also history and legacy for the finest fighter ever out of Kazakhstan to fight in Kazakhstan. And it doesn't hurt that maybe $10 million will be on the line. Doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
Tom, excuse me, Mike, one last question as we wrap up this segment. Do you think the extended layoff by Golovkin standards affected him on March 18th?
Sure, I think that was part of it. I think you could see a little rust. In the first 3 rounds particularly, I thought Golovkin started slowly. But once he started to get it, he gets the knockdown in the 4th round. And what was interesting for me with that is it was off a combination. Early on, it was just one punch at a time, jab, jab. In that 4th round, I think it was a left, right, right that put Jacobs down. Flash knockdown, off balance, fine. But later on in the fight, you saw the combinations a bit more. You saw the punches from different angles, the diversity from his offense.
Body attack wasn't there, though. I thought that was noticeably missing. And watching the replay up close where the angles are a lot different, I thought he had chances where he had stepped inside. Why wasn't he on over that front knee, bending over with the left hook? That even mystified Abel Sanchez, but timing's a big factor, and you have to give Daniel Jacobs credit. He was a tough, sturdy guy, and I think he exceeded a lot of expectations. But at the end of the night, Gennady Golovkin does retain his middleweight titles, and it could be on to June 10th. On behalf of Doug Fischer and Michael Montero, this is Steve Kim saying, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.